Today, we are diving into one of the most powerful and, honestly, most counterintuitive laws from Robert Greene's classic, The 48 Laws of Power. We're talking about Law 12, a strategy so subtle it can break down the defenses of even the most paranoid people. But before we get into the law itself, let's start with a puzzle. Picture this. It's the Roaring '20s. How in the world would you convince the most feared gangster in America to trust you with his money? I mean, it sounds like a death wish, right? Well, believe it or not, this isn't just some hypothetical question. This is a real story, one that Robert Greene uses to perfectly illustrate the law we're about to break down. It really happened. And it all begins with a promise that sounds completely impossible. The scene is set in 1926. A very well-dressed, very confident man who calls himself Count Victor Lustig walks right into Al Capone's headquarters. Now, this alone takes guts. And his total lack of fear, that definitely gets Capone's attention. So Lustig, he doesn't beat around the bush. He makes Capone an offer that is just staggering. Give him $50,000, which was a fortune back then, and he swears he will double it in 60 days flat. Can you just imagine the nerve? Now Capone, this is a guy who trusted nobody. His entire empire was built on suspicion and brutal efficiency. So he's skeptical, for sure. But there's something about Lustig's sheer audacity that's just captivating. So, against his better judgment, Capone has the cash counted out and hands it over. So what's Lustig's brilliant investment plan? Well, he doesn't have one. He takes that 50 grand, marches it over to a bank, and locks it in a safe deposit box. And that's it. For 2 months, he doesn't do a single thing to grow that money. He just waits. So the 60 days are up. The deadline has come and gone. This is the moment of truth. What do you think is going to happen when this con man has to face the world's most dangerous gangster and admit he failed? Let's find out, right after we explore the principle he was counting on. You see, Lustig's seemingly crazy plan was actually a masterclass in applying Law 12, which is all about the power of using selective honesty. The law itself is very direct. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. Notice the key word there, selective. This isn't about becoming a totally honest person. It's about using one single, well-aimed act of sincerity to completely lower someone's guard. Robert Greene puts it perfectly. He says, one sincere and honest move will cover over dozens of dishonest ones. That's the whole idea right there. The shock of an honest gesture from someone you expect to be deceitful is so powerful, it creates this kind of fog that hides everything else you're doing. I mean, just think about the psychology of it. We all walk around with a set of expectations for how people are supposed to act. When someone does something that completely violates those expectations, like an act of unexpected honesty, it sort of short-circuits our brain. Our suspicion just evaporates because we don't know how to react. And this brings us to the perfect metaphor that Greene uses for this entire law, the Trojan horse. You roll out this beautiful, amazing gift, your act of selective honesty. Your target is so impressed that they willingly open their gates to you. And once you're inside their walls, well, then you can get to your real objective. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds like a pretty modern, maybe even cynical tactic. But the truth is, this is an ancient strategy. It's been understood and used by powerful people for thousands of years. If you go all the way back to the 3rd century BC, the Chinese philosopher Han Fei-tzu was already writing about this. Jump forward to the 19th century, you've got the diplomat Talleyrand, who was famous for using moments of apparent sincerity to keep his enemies guessing. And of course, that brings us right back to 1926 with Count Lustig aiming this ancient weapon directly at Al Capone. Han Fei-tzu boiled this whole concept down to one simple, brilliant idea. When you are about to take, you should give. It's the ultimate setup, right? You offer a strategic gift first, and that paves the way for you to take something much bigger later on. Which brings us right back to our story. Lustig's gift to Capone wasn't a doubled investment. Oh no, his gift was something far more surprising, and in the end, far more valuable. A dose of unexpected honesty. So Lustig walks back into a Capone's office. He looks defeated. He hangs his head and says, "Mr. Capone, the plan failed. I am so sorry." He puts on an incredible performance of failure and regret. And then he plays his ace. Lustig reaches into his briefcase, pulls out the $50,000, all of it, untouched, and slides it across the desk back to Capone. This is the move that changes everything. Capone is just stunned. He probably expected a million excuses or that Lustig would have just disappeared. But this, an open admission of failure and a full return of his money, it completely disarmed him. And what did Capone do? He was so impressed by Lustig's integrity that he handed him $5,000 just for being so honest.
So, let's break it down. Why did this work so well? It's because Lustig's move completely defied every expectation Capone had. Returning the money was such a powerful and shocking gesture of honesty that it short-circuited the brain of America's most suspicious man. And the irony is just incredible. Lustig, the con man, got paid for his integrity.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? The heart of Law 12 is that a single, calculated action is infinitely more powerful than words. One surprising gesture can bypass all of someone's logic and suspicion in a way that hours of argument never, ever could. And that leaves us with a pretty provocative question to think about. We're surrounded by these kinds of gestures all the time, acts of generosity, apologies, moments of honesty. And Law 12 forces us to ask ourselves, when is a gift just a gift? And when is it a Trojan horse?